Welcome to Mark My Words, a show that searches for the fork in the road in life, the place where the turning point in the journey of entrepreneurship and life can be found. Let's meet each other at the crossroads on Mark My Words. My guest today makes me think of something that happened to me when I was in grade school. I said the word damn, and just thinking that that's not really a swear word, I still actually don't really believe that it's a swear word. But I had a classmate who would always say, "Oh, darn it." And it was like, "Oh, that's so funny." And yet, when I said damn, which I think is a pretty inoffensive word, I got grief for it. Actually, I also, now that I'm thinking about it, I got detention for saying shit and damn while playing a game. It was like an in-service day in middle school a couple years after that. And then I was a kid who never swore, never talked back. But if we're playing a game and I'm a city kid and I drop the ball, I'm gonna say like damn or whatever. I'm already way off track and we haven't even introduced my guest today, who is the owner of a company called Called Damn Leaves. He has a lot of different mantras and sayings that he uses all over for inspiration. He has a very inspirational story in general, and we're going to learn all about his how he basically came up with this mantra called the damn leaves and how that became a business for him. And I'm going to introduce Drewbie Wilson to Mark My Words. How you doing today?
Mark, thank you for sharing that story with us. What a gift, first of all. And I think that's one of the things I love most about doing shows is that inevitably you get to hear stories and learn something about the individual that they're always a little shy to share, but sometimes it's just like, you know what, I'm going to bring this out because it fits, it's in the moment, it's in the mood. And so I'm very grateful for anyone who's here listening with us today. I want you to know like your time is the most valuable asset that you have. And so you spending a little bit with us today, and Mark, you giving me the opportunity to jump on here and share a little bit of my journey, which I think has some cool stuff that I've done along the way. And you know, my goal is not to come on here and brag, but to share what's worked for me on that journey and the mindset shift and the things that I've had to go through because, you know, damn it, if it wasn't difficult along the way, but mark my words, if you hang out with us through this whole episode, you're going to have a good time. You're going to learn some stuff. So thanks for having me with you, brother.
Oh, no problem. It's my pleasure. And I knew right away as soon as I checked out some of your video clips and read your story, I'm like, man, this has a Mark My Words episode written all over it. So let us not hesitate. Speaking of time and using our time wisely, let us start, as I tend to do, with kind of your journey. We know that you had some ups and downs along the way. You actually started out, and let me just confirm for sure. Oh, wow, there was something even before retail manager for cigars. You even started out as a nuclear pharmacy technician. So you're pretty far removed from what got you here. What made you decide to take some of these paths?
Man, I tell you, life has been very interesting and kind to me on my journey, Mark. I've been blessed to have, as you said, a lot of ups, a lot of downs. And the one thing that I've really learned is that with each of these seasons, experiences, you really are blessed with two options. You can see them as great learning lessons, or you can see them as losses and struggles and poverty. And I've been through both, to be honest, because there are certain definitions for each of those words that apply. And also, as humans, we put our own perspective on certain things. And I think for me on my journey, what I've really has caused me to keep changing from, I grew up in the streets, a drug dealer, didn't want to stay in that business. That's how I got to being a nuclear pharmacy technician, right? My mom knew a guy, and so I got to knowing a guy, and that's what happens. You know a guy who knows a guy, right? And I got into that job and I did it for a while. And that was one of those things where it was a great opportunity for me to show up and work hard. And also, it was third shift. I'm not a night owl. I've always been someone that kind of woke up early, but like third shift, that was my only opportunity. So I took it and I got overweight, out of shape, unhealthy. I was pounding down energy drinks. I was eating fast food all the time. And I went from, you know, 240-ish pounds to like 315. And it took some time. It's not like it happened immediately, but at a certain point in that journey, I was like, this is not what I want out of life, right? I hit a glass ceiling almost because as I was making $12.85 an hour, I'll never forget this. And I thought like this is kind of awesome because I, was a drug dealer and barely graduated. And so I'm making more than minimum wage. That's cool. And and I went to the guy and I was like, well, what's next? He says, well, every 6 months we do a review and typically raises are 10 to 20 cents an hour. And like how okay. Anyways, that's like when you're young, you just do what you do, right? We don't know what we don't know until we know, and then once we know, we're tasked to make different decisions. So I went on that journey, and ended up getting into the cigar shop where I spent some time working. And when I got let go from that position 2 weeks before Christmas, I was like, oh no, what am I gonna do? Opportunity presented itself somewhere else. And so for me, my whole life's journey has really been about when an opportunity is presented to me, I really try to give it as much energy and value as possible. Like I was saying before we hit record, like, hey, you're gonna give me the opportunity to show up and share on your platform. Like, man, what can I do to do the best possible job I can for you in this season? Because while we're here, if I give you the most possible, that energy will transpire. And the more I pour into the cups of the people around me, the more it's making room for the universe to keep pouring into my own cup. And on that journey, I've had some very interesting jobs, nuclear pharmacy technician. I worked in a tobacco shop. I sold furniture. I've sold insurance, marketing, and consulting, and a whole lot of other weird stuff in between. Up to that's where Call the Damn Leads all came from, because on my journey, essentially, it's always been a mantra to do the work, and calling the damn leads is doing the work. And when I realized that I had a knack for the hustle for sales, because I grew up in sales, it's kind of the only thing I've ever known. I was like, well, if I want to make more money, I need to make more sales. And the only way to make more sales is to have more conversations with the right people. And so I needed to learn marketing because it was like, well, if I learn marketing, I can get more people to sell stuff to and make more money. And guess what? That's how it worked. Crazy enough, Mark, I went on, I learned marketing. I started getting more leads. I started selling more things. And I had these guys who reached out to me and they're like, hey, man, uh, you're doing really well. What are you doing? And is it legal? Of course, because, So I got this marketing company going and I started getting all these leads for people. And I don't know if you've ever worked in marketing or dealt with a business where you have to get leads and give them to sales professionals, Mark, but the hardest thing to get someone to do, call the damn leads. And so we had all these clients that were like telling us this wasn't working and this isn't good and I want my money back. And ultimately at one point, I picked up the phone and I started calling the lead list for one particular client. I'm not a real estate agent. I've bought and sold a couple houses in my lifetime, but like I'm not licensed to sell. I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express once, and that doesn't qualify me to sell you a home, but and I started calling. And wouldn't you believe it, people wanted to go see the house. And one person in particular sent me a signed contract from their agent to buy the property that this guy said no one in this list of 100 people wants to look at. And so I had to call him and say, listen, man, I don't know what you're doing over there, but you need to call the damn leads. Here's all this information. Please don't ever call me again. Have a great day. And at that point, I went to my marketer friends and I said, guys, someday I'm gonna put call the damn leads on a t-shirt and we're gonna sell it to all of our marketing friends and sales professionals because golly, if it's not the truth, and also, gosh, if people would just do the dang work, they would have the results that they want. And we can fast forward a little bit in the journey there, but like that's where it all started was kind of a joke. And I've taken that joke and manifested it into a lifestyle that's allowing me to travel around with my family to really embrace the journey that I've been on and sharing it on a story like this, getting other people inspired and motivated to do the thing that they want to go do, but it's almost like they're waiting for permission for. Because no one in their life is going to say, yeah, you should go do that crazy thing that you want to do because they're all afraid and they wouldn't do it themselves.
Well, one thing that I do see are a few parallels in our story. I mean, obviously, as far as weight loss, it's amazing I've even lost 30 pounds over the past year or so. Uh,
Congratulations, man.
it
That's
was
freaking, that's incredible.
Well, it was better that you made that change when you were younger because it gets harder to do as you get older. So I still have a ways to go. I would like to lose another like 50 pounds, but that might be another story for another time. But
Make it a lifestyle goal. It doesn't have to happen immediately. It can happen over the next however many years you plan to be alive, Mark. And that's what I always remind people that there are sprints and there are marathons. There are certain seasons and races of your life where you have to go fast and you get a quick result, but that's not always sustainable. And to me, I'm here for a long time, not just a good time. Like I want to have a good time too, but like I want to be here a long time because I'm a husband and a father. And so, whatever you're building your version of success, make it sustainable. If you want to lose 50 pounds, that's awesome. 5 pounds every 6 months for the next 10 years or whatever that is, right? And I'm just putting that out there, but it's sustainable that way. Does that make sense?
no, it makes a lot of sense. And I mean, you have to put in the work, you have to want to actually have the healthier lifestyle, which I know my diet, I mean, I'm eating cottage cheese and grapes almost every morning, which if you had told me like a year or two ago that that is something I'd be doing now, I would have said, absolutely not. That is a terrible idea for breakfast, but I got some test results back that were like, okay, your results are a little too out of whack and too high. And I'm like, okay, I know I'm not getting any younger. I have to buckle down. Like whatever I decide to do now, to the best of my ability, I have to keep doing it, not just until I lose whatever amount of weight I want to lose. I gotta keep it up until the day I die, till I'm no longer able to eat or function or whatever the case is. Because if I don't, I'm gonna wind up continuing the same cycle that I've been seeing not only with myself, but maybe even with my own family history. So it's better to just listen, just get regular checkups, and try to eat better. You can't be perfect about it because you gotta
I
live your
was just
life.
gonna say I'm not perfect. I can't sit here and say I'm perfect. Like I still love tacos and margaritas, Mark. My wife and I, that's our that's our thing. But again, it's can you create something sustainable? Like, yeah, having cottage cheese and grapes for breakfast might not be ideal, but it allows you the opportunity to experience other things throughout the day because you're making a small sacrifice in breakfast instead of getting a McDonald's bacon, egg, and cheese bagel, which is one of my personal favorites.
Do.
Right? I knew I liked you, Mark. See, this kindred spirits, brother. But that's the thing is you make a small sacrifice there in order to have more in other areas, and that's what life really is. It's there's so much interesting perspective around life balance, right? You talk to entrepreneurs, you talk to anybody, you talk to somebody that's really, really successful, and they're like, I'm doing this. And then somebody that's not successful is like, well, their life isn't balanced. And it's like, well, the guy at the top saying, yeah, you're not doing the work that would put you where you're at saying I am. And then he's like, well, you don't have the family. And so balance is this very weird dynamic. And one of my mentors along the way, he always said, hey, man, who wants to be balanced? A balanced scale reads zero. You're not a zero. Like you're something. And I always thought that was so interesting. But as I continued on my journey, right, I like to take a little from this person, a little from that person, what I like, don't like, just perspective. Uh, that's what success is. It's a perspective. My version is going to be a little bit different than your version. And if you asked our parents what their version of a successful life for us would have looked like when we were born, drastically different, right? Because perspective changes
Yeah.
as you have experience, as you go through life, your perspective changes. And so, when you're thinking about like, what am I doing with my balance in life? I look at it like this. If you want to simplify it, there's 24 hours in a day, right? We can all kind of agree on that. And to me, there's four areas of life that are really, really important. And sleep is at the top of that list because if you've ever been on a bender, and again, I grew up in the streets doing a lot of like, sketchy stuff. And so I've been up for a long time and I've met a lot of people that have been up for way too long and it's not a good look. We all got to sleep and to look, I'm trying to keep up with how good you look, Mark. So I need my beauty sleep every night, right? I got to get my hours in. And so sleep is important. And then for a lot of us, especially if you're here on this call, you're likely an entrepreneur or someone who is seeking more in life because you don't invest time into these sorts of things if you're not. So like you're wanting more, which to me likely means, and I'm not projecting, but likely you have a family, you have relationships, you have a legacy that you care about that you're working towards. So like that's important. That's on the list of things that matter. It's important to me. Again, I have a beautiful wife and a young son and things that I want to project in my relationships. Then you have your business, because let's be honest, we don't have FU money yet. Like I don't know your personal situation, Mark, but like I don't have FU money, so I still got to work every day, right? And so we show up and we put in a business. And then interestingly though, we have ourselves at the bottom of that list, which is why so many entrepreneurs and business owners and sales professionals that you meet, they're burnout, they're out of shape, they're unhappy, their relationships are falling apart because like ultimately they're out in the world saying that they're doing all of these things and operating at this maximum capacity to deliver this amazing life. But if you've ever been on an airplane, they tell you if there's an emergency, you have to put your own oxygen mask on first, because if you don't, you're a burden to everyone else around you. So, Mark, if you're operating without putting your own oxygen mask on first, what does that look like in your life?
It looks like I'm just gonna plummet to a sad death, I guess. So
And
that's
it,
what that tells me.
well, and that's a serious projection of what could potentially happen, right? And we've seen people that go down that route. They get extremely depressed and they make very drastic decisions, or they get so far into an unhealthy state that it makes it hard to come back from because it's just perpetual at that point. And so I really encourage anyone who's here, like, if those are the areas of life that are important to you, and again, I'm just kind of projecting what's been important to me so you can tactically take this away. Like, where are you spending your time? If you know your time is your most valuable asset, we all know how to make more money, right? We go work, that's how we make more money, but like the time is the one thing we can't get back. So if you're going to invest your time, where are you investing it? What are you investing it in? Who are you investing it in being with? And again, I want to say thank you because you're here with us still through this episode. Like, thank you for the opportunity to be here and have some of that time, because I know if one person heard this and they go and they do something with this and the formula that I'm going to give you here in a few minutes, your life is going to be better. And that means that I'm fulfilling on my mission. And that's what's so interesting about this journey, and why, again, Mark, I'm so grateful to be on here and share this, because like the impact that we can make through a conversation, through a story that we tell like that, it's incredibly powerful.
So you had your turning point with the weight loss and you worked your way to where you are now. You obviously had a big career turning point with Call the Damn Leagues, and you have a lot of passion and a lot of energy. I'm gonna guess that maybe you didn't always have this type of passion and energy, when did that really start to flip into the personality I see now?
So it's interesting because, like, I've done a lot of deep reflection and I've paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for coaching and mentorship and all the investments that one makes to get to this level of like really deep understanding. And again, I'm not perfect. This is why I love having conversations, because something you said earlier was important to me about how I look at, going through my day and how I'm setting things up and making sure that I'm prepared. Because you and me like, hey, you were 5 minutes early. That was very awesome. I'm like, yes, that's important to me. And that's a reflection of time and how much I value other people's time. And the big shift for me is that I didn't used to value time. I didn't used to respect and appreciate time the way it is. And there was two big things that really happened to me, two really impactful moments that helped me recognize my time is so valuable. And if you're okay with it, and I know, time wise, I don't want to keep you guys all day, but I'd love to share the stories. But this is what happened to me to really make that shift in energy. First, again, I kind of grew up rough household childhood, wasn't the worst ever, but it wasn't the best either, right? I didn't have a silver spoon. My family had a lot of addiction and things that went on, and I don't say any of that to complain. My family did everything they knew how to do in their season to get the result that they got. So I can't fault them for that. They only knew what they knew. For me, I at one point was in sales and I was kind of doing okay. Again, good will steal from great every chance it gets. And I was doing good. I had a beautiful wife. We're married. We had just bought our house. I was making, 30, 40 grand a year selling insurance, thinking like, this ain't so bad. I'd like to make more money, but it's not so bad. Like, I'm not a drug dealer. I'm not dead. I'm not in prison. Right. So like perspective, things were pretty good. And also, I'm watching these other guys online that are not as good looking as I am, not as smart as I am, and in my opinion, certainly not working as hard as I am, which that's a whole other perspective and conversation to get around in a future call. But like, I'm looking around and I'm doing that thing where I'm comparing myself, and comparison is the thief of joy. And it was like, what am I doing? And I mentioned earlier, like I wanted to learn marketing because I wanted to make more money, because I was like, well, I want to make more money, so I got to learn marketing. And that's what I was doing. And in that journey of learning marketing, having a little success, one of my mentors at the time, he gave me a shout out on social media. He's like, hey, here's a guy signed up to use my platform, having some success with it. Like, congratulations, man. Let's give him a round of applause. I was like, that's pretty cool. Like, I paid the guy, so it's, he kind of shouted me out, but that was nice. But what happened is I got a phone call, and this wonderful woman named Nancy, she's like, hey, Drew, I see you're using this software that I'm also using. And the guy gave you this big shout out and said that you're the man with it. And I would really just love to know how much for an hour of your time to hop on a call and just walk me through a few things that have been working well for you. And Mark, dadgummit, if that wasn't one of like the most powerful, humbling questions, because in the moment, like she's expecting an answer. And it was like almost a freeze frame where I'm in my mind going, okay, well, my base salary is $1,500 a month. So if you break that down over 40 hours a week, that's $10. Plus I got, commissions. And so I'm making like, I don't know, 22, $25 an hour. And I'm like, okay, cool. And if I was to work in a regular job, I'd charge them double time because it's, after hours or a holiday pay or what. And I'm trying to justify all these reasons to like get more money. And so I go, well, Nancy, I tell you what, like, why don't you give me $50 and we'll hop on a call? And if you think it's stupid, I'll send you your money back. Cause like, I wanted to be very honest. I had never been down that path. And she's like, well, why don't I send you 75 instead? And I'm like, well, yeah, that sounds great. Let's do that. That's awesome. So, we set up a call a few days later. I get on the call. I have this conversation and I'm just like, it's just like this conversation right here. I'm feeling good. She's asking me questions and I'm confident, like, oh yeah, you need to do this. Go and do this part here. Here's what I did. This has worked for me. And she, at the end of the call, was like, this was fantastic. Very, very helpful. Thank you. She sent me a Venmo for $75. And Mark, I screenshot it. And I wish I still had the screenshot. I can't find it. It's probably in Google somewhere. But like I screenshot it and I went, this is the most amazing thing ever. And I sent it to my wife and I said, babe, how do I do this like 2 or 3 times a day? Because like if I did that in one day, that's what I make in a week. if I could do that in one day, like that would be incredible. I'd be like, well, how do I keep doing this? And that was kind of what started me to go into the marketing further and start the marketing company. But here's a really powerful takeaway from that, Mark. And this is one of the formulas I give my clients who pay me thousands of dollars a year or, up to $2,500 an hour to get on a call now, right? I used to be afraid to ask for 50. Now people will pay me 2,500 and they hardly bat an eye. But it was my confidence and the realization that my time is very, very valuable. And the way that you can start to figure this out is if you added up all the money that you made last year as a total, right? So maybe you have a main job and maybe you have a side hustle where you make a couple of bucks, right? Maybe you have like an affiliate program or like a podcast that you do where you get paid. I don't know, whatever the side hustle is. You might even have like one of those websites where you share spicy pictures of yourself and get paid for it. I'm not judging. I'm just
No,
saying if that's the
not no
income,
judgment here.
put all that money together, right? Add up the big total. And then you need to take that total and divide it by 2,000. And here's why. Because if you are an average person, which again, none of you who are here with us right now this far into the episode are average because you are going way above and beyond to learn and better yourself. So you're not average. But if you were, you would work 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year with a 2-week vacation. Inevitably, you'd work 2,000 hours every single year. So if you made $50,000 last year, your time is worth $25 an hour. If you made $100,000 last year, your time is worth $50 an hour. Whatever your number is, do the math real quick and write that number down because this is very, very important. If I put on a hood and a black cape and I come up and I knock on your door and I say, Mark, my name is Death. You have 24 hours left to live. I know that you walk around right now and actively are worth $40 an hour, $50 an hour, based on the math and the calculation that you just did in your head. Here's $50. I need you for an hour. What's your response going to be?
Yes. Let's do it.
You think you're going to roll for $50 an hour if you know you only got 24 hours left to live?
Okay. So maybe I need to think about the question a little differently. Uh,
Right. You have
yeah.
24 hours. This is your last 24 hours on Earth. You think
Well,
$50 is enough for an hour of your time?
I mean, at that point, I may either ask for more money or maybe do something different with my time because I don't have much time left. So,
Yeah. So interestingly enough, though, there's two parts to this. One, you now recognize, well, hold on, before I like walk out the door with my boots laced up, do I really want to give up one of my last 24 hours on this planet for that kind of money? And let me rethink that a second. Because we both will agree money is a tool, is a resource that we use to facilitate the great things in our life, in our relationships, in our material possessions, like whatever those things are for you personally. I don't know all that. But like that's the tool that we use to get those things that bring joy, bring happiness, all of those things. So there is a number realistically at some point where you say, you know what? 24 hours left. That kind of money for 1 hour, I can do a lot with that sort of resource pool. Cool. I'm in. Let's go, Death. Whatever you're going to do, like, I'm dead anyway, so I'll forget about this. I'll worry about that when we get there, right? That's a problem for future me. But right now, I know I want to do this thing because it's going to bring me X amount of resources that I can now go and give back to the people, things that matter to me most.
I think
So,
everything you just said is very impactful. I'm not sure that I've ever heard this perspective as far as like the value of your time and the sense of money and the sense of how do I get started? What is the rate that I want to charge to start up a business? What can I offer? Because I'm willing to bet there are a lot of people out there who are not sure of what to do in that case. They don't know the number. They're not sure of the value of either their time, their skill set. And I think the way that you laid that out is so perfect. And maybe that might not work for everybody necessarily, like point blank, but it definitely gets you thinking and it gives you a good place to start. And I've had a lot of really smart people on this show who have shared a lot of perspectives on getting started. And I've asked a lot of different questions. And heck, I didn't even really ask this question. You just straight up told us. And that I'm sitting here, I'm like, this is something that I really want to hear because I've never had that really presented. So thank you for going through all of that and even putting me on the spot. I love when I have these conversations and my guests put me on the spot with a question. And I like when I screw it up because I had the answer wrong. And I think I'm glad that I was wrong because not only do you get me to see it differently, because I'm not, for as much as I emphasize time, and I'm actually sitting here today thinking about how I want to do a new solo episode about time. So you're really feeding into that idea for me as well. And it just really made me think about, oh, you know, if I value time so much, which is going to be the theme of that episode whenever I do it, whenever I have the quote unquote time, uh, that is something that you gave me a lot to think about because right in the spur of the moment, I mean, I guess there's really no right or wrong answer, but as far as I'm concerned, initially I feel like I gave the wrong answer.
You know what? But good on you for recognizing and being willing to say, you know what, this is a great opportunity to learn. Because some people could get that answer wrong and then get in their feelings about it and then later on be like, that was wrong and I'm an idiot and I can't believe I had screwed up like that. And they just go into this like cycle of self just hatred. And it's I know because I've been there. And the one thing that I really respect and admire about you was your willingness to go, you know what? I was wrong about that. Hold on a second, sir. Wait. Before I sign on the dotted line, like before I give away everything, like wait, let me think this before I make my decision. And that's the biggest lesson, right? Because before you take action, there's some decisions to be made. And there are certainly people who are like stuck in a decision loop and never take action. So don't be that guy. But the thing that I really appreciate is how you just said, you know what, let me learn from this. You know, my perspective is okay, here's a way that I can take this in my own download, right? And like I said, if only one person learns today, maybe that person is you, Mark, and you get to take some of these things into your solo episode. And because it's your episode and it has nothing to do with me, because I'm just a guy out here flapping my gums a lot and trying to do things to help people. But like maybe you get to learn this and your version of it, your perspective in the way that you share it is super, super helpful to millions of people. That's what this is all about. And what I will encourage you and the listeners to think about is that there's a million ways to make $1 million. One of my mentors said, methods are many, principles are few. Methods may vary, but principles never do. There's a lot of different ways to do things. And a favorite book of mine is called Steal Like an Artist. And in it, it basically talks about, hey, you can learn a little bit from this person and a little bit from this person, and you use it in your own way to go and be like the great you. Because if you did all the same kind of art as Picasso, guess what they're going to say? He's the next best Picasso. But you'll never be better than Picasso because you're always chasing what he's doing and you have to wait for him to do it to do your version of it. But if you take a little bit of what Picasso has, you take a little bit of what Michelangelo has, a little bit of Leonardo da Vinci, and I'm just really naming off Ninja Turtles right now, so like don't judge me. But like if you go that route, you know, like all of a sudden you've created your own version of it. And so I want to give you one more thing that you can write down, Mark, and take away. And this is for the listener too, but I want to give this to you as a gift so that you can go and create your own artistic version of it. But with everything that I've talked about, the value of time, understanding the areas of life where you're spending your time, kind of what's important, and then really emphasizing, hey, you need to put yourself at the top of this list after sleep. Like you got to sleep first, and then yourself, and then family, and then business last. But if you're wanting to be balanced and you say, okay, well, I can spend 6 hours sleeping, 6 hours on me, 6 hours on my relationships, family, whatever, 6 hours on my business. If you've ever spent 6 hours doing one thing in particular, like you can have a lot of fun. Were you a gamer at all, Mark?
Very much.
Yeah, I grew up a gamer too. I loved it. You put me in front of a video game for 6 hours, it goes by like this. Freaking blink of an eye. I'll have so much fun and be like, holy moly, it's 4 in the morning. I do not even understand how I got what happened, right? And if you've had that experience in any area, maybe you went on a date and you got to be with someone really incredible for 6 hours and it was like the most amazing memory of all times. You recognize 6 hours, you can have a lot of fun, you can do a lot of things. So, what if you went into every day knowing I've got 6 hours to invest in this, 6 hours to invest in this, and 6 hours to invest in these four categories, right? So here's what the takeaway is. You need to audit where you're spending your time. You watch where you're spending your money every month, right? You see it going to Netflix, you see it going to Starbucks, all these places, but are you auditing where your time goes? Because if you put a reminder in your calendar or in your phone, and at the top of every hour on the hour for the next 2 weeks, you make a note to just go in and say, you know what? My alarm went off at 4 a.m. It's 5 a.m. now. I have done my gratitude exercises. I've drank water. I have started my pre-workout routine. I read my, dailies. I meditated. I prayed, and now I'm getting ready to put my shoes on and walk out the door. That's my 4 a.m. to 5 a.m., not necessarily yours, but I'm just saying, like, imagine if you do this all day. And then it's like, okay, well, I had breakfast. And then I had to take the dog out, and the fucking dog got away, so I had to chase him for 10 minutes, and then got in the car and I got caught in traffic and I was listening to this podcast episode. This guy was talking about the value of time and like he was kind of an idiot, but I didn't hate what he was saying. So like I kept listening. And then okay, I got to work and I made coffee and I sat and I chit-chatted with Jan for 20 minutes. And then when I got to my desk, I scrolled YouTube and then I went to work for a couple hours and I called some people and I did some stuff. Okay, cool. And then I left. And I got home and I turned on Netflix and I watched 2 hours of The Price is Right on Netflix because, like, man, I love The Price is Right. And then by day three, Mark, you're gonna be cursing me. You're gonna be like, I really hate that Drew guy. Like, what the hell? How could he do this to me? Make me aware of how valuable my time is and that I'm absolutely wasting it on all these things that aren't getting me the life that I want. That's for you, sir.
And that, I mean, what more can I really say? I mean, other than wasting time with dead air, I don't know what else to say, which your time is valuable, and that is something I've learned. You learn it, I think, as you get older, and I know I've always valued my time, and I've always been good with time management. And maybe you can talk a little bit about. I mean, I think you already kind of alluded to it. You just pretty much spelled out what a day in your life kind of looks like, I guess. But I know for me, when I first wake up, I gotta give the cat a treat. My cat loves these churros, and from the second I wake up, all I hear is meow, meow. So I can't even meditate or do anything for me. The second I roll out of bed, I gotta feed him. So I mean, plenty of time after
Responsibilities
that.
for family, right? But that's relationships. And those are
Yeah.
things that you should write down. Like, hey, I really care about my cat. And so the first thing that I do every morning is I give it a treat on the way to go to the bathroom and go pee. Because golly, if I don't have to go pee every morning, and that takes me 3 minutes, right? And like sometimes you got to take a long pee, Mark. We've all been there in the morning, right? It was like, is this ever going to end? Like you're leaning on the wall trying to, it's like that Austin Powers episode, and it's just like, but these are all very important parts of your day. And for you and for the listener, like write those things down. Really think about like what matters to you. Because if you really understood that you can wake up and live a pretty freaking awesome day every day, that you're blessed to open your eyes, if you just be more intentional with it, I promise you, you're going to get that result. Don't be mad. Just saying.
Well, let's be intentional with our time here before too much of it slips away and we get to the end of our time. Talk
Mm.
a little bit more about the day to day of call to damn leagues and maybe even talk a little bit more about a league for those of us who may not know too much about leagues and maybe the process of it and just what goes into your day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate that opportunity to share a little bit about our movement. So, again, I own a company named Call the Damn Leads. And what we do essentially is, to simplify it, help sales professionals, entrepreneurs, and business owners build a system for sustainable success. Because I've been in the business world and entrepreneurship for almost 2 decades now. I've met a lot of very, very successful people whose life sucked. I've met a lot of people who had really cool lives whose businesses sucked. And so, again, we know balance is kind of this weird dichotomy, but my goal with everything that I've done, learned, and been through on my journey is to take call the damn leads out to help folks like entrepreneurs, sales professionals, and business owners get these things dialed in. Because whatever your version of success is 100% possible if you're willing to do the work and make it happen. And a lot of times, there are systems and processes we can share with you that will compress time because you can make more money. So if you invest a little bit of money to get these systems and processes and machines, right? It's kind of like buying a car. You could walk the 15 miles to work every day, but that would suck. So you go buy a car, you invest in this machine to make it faster. So you get the machine to get to the work so you can get paid, so you can get home and enjoy your life. This is the same thing as investing in a business like us, coaching and consulting. You're investing in a machine, in a system, in a process to compress time so that you can get closer to the result that you want. And for some people, it's making more sales, which a lead, if you aren't in sales or business of any sort, I would in a second contradict that for you, but for explanation, a lead is essentially if someone were to raise their hand and say, you know what, Drewbie, I know you help sales professionals and entrepreneurs. I myself am a sales professional and entrepreneur. I am looking to close more sales. I'm looking to find ways to grow my authority in my market and have more people saying, hey, Drewbie, I'd like to work with you versus, me having to constantly go out and beg for business. What does that look like? That's what we do. That's what we teach you how to implement.
Well, how do you want to grow from here? What else do you think you can do with Call the Damn Leads and just as an entrepreneur in general?
So my goal, very bigly, is that within 5 years, you cannot walk through an airport or a sales related event in the world without seeing our brand tag somewhere. Because I know that sales is a profession as old as time. And we could really nerd out, but again, we don't have time to do it on this episode. Maybe you'll invite me back for some future episodes. But essentially, sales and marketing has gone on since the dawn of time, right? Like the snake sold Eve on biting the apple, and so here we are in humanity, so many decades later, right? I don't know what your beliefs are, but like this is how it's always worked. In the old days, the Egyptian scrolls at the very, very bottom there was marketing ads to come and work on the pyramids. Like, so this is not a new thing. It has always existed, will always exist. And to me, again, the best way to be successful, not just in sales, but in anything, is to do the work. And when it comes to sales, the number one way to do the work is to call the damn leads.
That pretty much sums it up. Can't really where else do you go from there? Wow, that just wrapped itself up like a present. So
Well, and Marc, I appreciate the opportunity to, like I said, get on here and jab my jaws. And if I can do any one thing again, I want to not necessarily represent for me, but for the opportunity for me to be here and mark my words. Anyone who got value out of this should share it on social media. They should tag you. They should tag me. They should let someone they care about know that this was impactful for them. Because this is what it's all about. you hear something that rings true to you that you enjoy and you share it with somebody that you care about so that they also have that opportunity. And Marc, again, man, I just want to say thank you for the chance to be here with you.
Hey, you're welcome. And I mean, it was my pleasure. I knew this episode was going to be full of energy. I was ready for it. And now I'm energized the rest of the day. I'm not quite done with you yet, though, because
Come on.
we, we still need to talk about how people can find you, how they can work with you. Are you on social media? Which I know the answer is yes. I'll let you take that part away.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you heard something that you enjoyed, you are a sales professional, business owner, entrepreneur of some sort that wants to get better, right? If you don't want to grow, I can't help you. But if you want to get better, go to callthedamnleads.com. Google Call the Damn Leads. I'm literally on every social media platform. I'm pretty sure every single one of them. I don't have one of those spicy websites, but maybe I need to take like spicy sales photos and start one of those too. I don't know. But if you go Google me, I'm everywhere. We'll be on the platform that you're on because I know it's not about what I want. It's about what you want, where you want to be, and where you want to go. So if you're wanting to go somewhere further than where you are, I'd love to be a part of that journey. Go to callthedamnleads.com, check us out, send me a note. I do free consultation calls all the time. Just let me know. I'd love to hop on. Make sure you tell me, though, I heard this on Mark My Words, because that's going to let me know that you actually did what we said, which is you went out, you shared this episode, you did the things that we asked you to do because action takers always get the best results. And if you take action with anything that you learned here today, you will get a result.
Well, one more result that I want to get before we hang this up for today. So I'm doing this a little bit backwards, but that's okay. You know, it just rather than being so robotic with every episode, let's spice this up a little bit. I usually end on that note, but one thing I didn't get to really talk about much, you come up with the best like slogans, the meme lord, calling damn leaves, crushing it, and I'm probably missing some, I'm sure. How do you come up with all these like catchphrases and sayings, and how do you think it's important as far as marketing and people remembering you? Because I know I will never forget you, not only because you were a guest on this show, but just call the damn leaves right there. Never gonna forget you.
So on my journey, I came across a very powerful quote early on and it's kind of popped back up throughout my life. So if you ever hear something and it makes an impact and then you hear it again in like a short time span, that is God, the universe, whatever you subscribe to, like knocking on your door to remind you how important it is for you to catch this message. And to me, it was your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And Jeff Bezos, I believe, is the originator of that quote. And I think that's so interesting because as I was growing up in like the not always great situations, like reputation, brand was really, really important. Like your word was everything. Your reputation, your brand meant something. And so for me, I wasn't always like the best looking. I wasn't always the most successful. I didn't always have all the best money. So like I used my charm and my wit as like my balance to that. I always was like, I'm gonna be the funny guy because like funny is money, right? That's another funny little cliche saying that people have used over time. But like I've always just leaned in on who I am. The meme lord thing. I mean, I was one of the first kids in my neighborhood to have cable internet, so I've been immersed in the world of like all things sketchy that exist online for a long, long time. God help my poor NSA agent if he ever has to look through my browser history and see all of the things that I've looked at over the years. Like, I've been exposed to a lot. And with that, I've had groups of friends where our whole thing is sending like crazy memes and silly stuff back and forth to each other. And what before memes came around, and again, we could go really crazy into a whole nother episode with memes themselves, but like before memes, we shared one-liner movie quotes. Remember, it was always like, who's got the best one-liners? Who's got that snappy comeback? Who's got like that was how we knew who was like the funny guy, who was the silly one, whatever. That was my life. That was my role. And so I loved movie one-liners, the Big Lebowski and Shawshank and just Crank Yankers and all these silly little one-liner type shows that we grew up on in our era. I know you're not too much older than me, Mark. I'm 37. I know you're not that much older than I am. And so like we grew up in that era. And to me, as I continued on in my journey, I wanted to be memorable. Like I'm not, again, like I'm not a hard closer. I'm not someone that's going to try to like breathe down your neck to get the deal done. I do genuinely care about people. And so I want you to remember me that when it's your time to make that decision to take action, because I can't force you to, you can lead a horse to water and they have to make that choice to drink. Much like the listener, much like whoever is in this journey, I can't help you unless you want to help yourself. But if you do, then let's go on and make it happen.
Well, thank you for coming on here and making it happen. And thank you for just giving me the opportunity to say damn so much without getting sent to detention or getting scolded at by a teacher. And it just goes to show there really isn't nothing wrong with the word damn. So as a kid, maybe I was a little bit ahead of my time. I don't know. But
I laugh because they always told me when I told people that I was going to make this a brand and it was going to be something, they're like, that's not professional and nobody will ever do business with you. Well, guess what? We have thousands of clients. We have, people all around the world that love working with us and we're just getting bigger every day. So damn it if it's not okay to say damn every once in a while.
right. And maybe it's because of that experience and a few others that I don't swear too much on this show. Who knows? I definitely swear plenty when I hit the stop button. So I do like to swear. I just don't really on the show. But Call the Damn Leaves, Drewbie Wilson, he is the founder, the owner. He has just a plethora of wisdom, and your story is amazing. And I tip my cap to you, even though I don't have a cap on right now. For
Send me your address. I'll mail you one.
I would love that. But just it was great of you to overcome all of those obstacles and to be not only where you are now, but just with the amazing attitude that you have and just trying to spread that positivity around. I just think that's great. And that is what Mark My Words is all about. So thanks for taking time out of your day to be here. And I'm Mark Schmidt. He is Drewbie Wilson, again, of Call the Damn Leaves. Thanks for being here. And thank you all for listening. Bye for now. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to go on a journey with me into entrepreneurship and life on Mark My Words. If you would like to learn more about me and the show, you can find me on LinkedIn at Mark Schmidt or connect with me on Instagram at Nimrod79. Video episodes of Mark My Words, as well as other content, can also be found on the Mark My Words YouTube page. Entrepreneurship can be quite the roller coaster ride. It can be a bit isolating and intimidating, but it doesn't have to be that way. Let's meet here next time at the crossroads on another episode of Mark My Words.